Good morning. Good morning. I like to start my broadcast off with a cough. Pregnancy news, MD. Trump in Mexico. I know you want to talk about Trump going to Mexico. That's why I'm here. We'll let a few more people sign on first. Grab your passport. Are we all going to Mexico now? It's actually my second cup of coffee. 200 people. What's up, yo? What's up with you? Oh. So, what time tonight is Trump's speech? Does anybody know? Where's it going to be and what time and their local? Hazel, go to school, Hazel. 9 p.m. Eastern. Oh, perfecto. I don't know if I'll be watching that live, though. All right, we got 300 people. That's good enough. So you probably know the news this morning that, first of all, there's new unfavorability ratings that are out. I just retweeted that. Turns out that for the first time, Clinton and Trump are roughly tied in unfavorability. I believe it was I who said months ago that you don't need to worry so much about Trump's unfavorability ratings, which were sky high, because he's not trying to outrun the bear. He's just trying to outrun his fellow camper, Hillary Clinton. And now, Hazel, hi. And now Trump is outrunning the bear. He's outrunning Clinton. Or he's at least running tie with Clinton in unfavorability. So some people ask me, what's the persuasion play with Trump going to Mexico and meeting with the president of Mexico? And I will tell you, this is not so much persuasion in the normal, clever, tricky way that you think of persuasion. This is pretty much right down the middle of the plate. And I don't think there's anything I'm going to say that wouldn't be obvious to you as well. But people ask me the question, so I'll give you the answer anyway. First of all, it looks presidential to go meet with a foreign leader, especially if that foreign leader has publicly invited you. Secondly, tell me, what is the biggest problem that people have with Trump? What's the biggest fear? I'll make this interactive. Tell me, what is the biggest fear that anti-Trumpers have, let's say Democrats in particular? What is it that they fear the most about Trump? Yeah, that he's a Hitler racist, crazy Hitler racist. Now, traveling to Mexico will not erase the accusation of racism, because that's just one trip to one place. But if Trump meets with the president, just think this through. Let's say that Trump and the president of Mexico, they go and they meet, and at the end of it, they're not going to love each other, right? They're not going to be hugging and shaking hands. But let's suppose they come out and say, we had a productive meeting. We both said what we wanted. We did not agree, but I'm pretty sure we can work together to make the border more secure. Game over. At least game over in terms of making him look less crazy, because that's the least crazy thing anybody could do. Go meet with the other person, talk to him, maybe not agree. It's only just one meeting, right? You're not going to change the world in one meeting. But you could leave the meeting saying, yeah, I could work with that guy. That's all the world wants to hear. The world wants to hear one thing, and Trump looks like he's going to answer that question today. They want to hear one thing. Can Donald Trump meet with the head of another country, especially one that's, has a little animosity toward, not a little, a lot of animosity toward Trump? Can he do it and pull that off without the world exploding? And the answer is, of course he can. He always could. Anybody could. It's not even that terribly hard. He's just going to go there, be polite for, an hour and come home, and everybody's going to say, are you kidding? Trump met with a foreign leader and he didn't punch him in the face, because the bar is so low for Trump to act sane. All he has to do is fly to Mexico in his big old plane, land, shake some hands, say, I'm going to build a wall. I told people I'd make you pay for it, but let's see if we can work together. And then the president of Mexico will say, we don't want to pay for that wall. We want things this way, but I totally want to work with you if you're the president of the United States. Because what is the option? Let's say you're the president of Mexico, and you think it's a toss-up at this point, who's going to be president of the United States. Is there any chance that the president of Mexico is going to be a flaming asshole to Trump in person 2 months before he might get elected president of the United States? I would put that odds at 0. Now, if you imagine that the president of Mexico is polite and presidential, I'm sure it'll be tough. I'm sure he's going to say what he needs to say. He'll get his quotes out there. He'll get a few jabs into Trump and his point of view. But it's going to go well. Basically, it's going to go well. And that's going to be huge. Mexico's president is planning to trash him in the media after the meeting. Well, if he does, it's a really bad play. Because if you're the president of Mexico, you don't want to take a 50% chance, or whatever you think the chances are, that you've just insulted the guy who's going to become president of the United States, your most important neighbor. So unless the president of Mexico is crazy, unless the president of Mexico is a crazy racist, which would be weirdly ironic, everything's going to go fine with that meeting. And after it's over, it's in people's minds anyway, it's going to erase at least half of their biggest worries about Trump, that he's just unstable and other countries can't deal with him. And in a matter of hours, that impression will largely be erased. Now, if Trump goes to Mexico and does something crazy, then I don't think you can vote for him for president. But I would say the odds of him going to Mexico and doing something crazy are really, really low. You don't think Trump has a 50% chance of winning? Have you seen the polls this week? He just pulled even. He pulled ahead in one poll. Favorability just collapsed. Unfavorability just collapsed. The two of them are the same. Yeah, I would expect that the Mexican president has to jab Trump a little bit after the meeting. But it's not going to be, I think it'll be a low tension kind of a jab. More of a poke than a jab. All right. Do you think you'll be safe? Good question. Well, I'll tell you this. If Trump goes to Mexico and gets attacked, he'll be president of the United States if he survives. Poke the bear, yeah. They're doing a press release after. All right, if they're doing a press conference after, that means they plan to be friends after. Because you don't do the press conference after if everything goes to shit, right? You think cartel threats help him? Yeah, maybe. Hello, India. What's with all the zucchinis? Should the alt-right attempt to fake it? No. Putin invites him? Well, he probably doesn't want Putin to invite him. And there doesn't seem to be a reason for that, since they appear to be getting along fine. Hillary says she's going to Mexico now. Oh my God, that does make her look weak, being the second one to say yes. Is mentioning the wall in Mexico crazy? Nope. Yeah, what do the eggplants mean? I know what they usually mean. They usually mean you are turgid and aroused. All right. Trudeau is a shithead. All right, so is that all you wanted to know about today? Thoughts on Roger Stone? Why do you ask? I mean, what's behind that? For Harambe? It's funny, the comments are going by so quickly that I can't block them because I can't hit that thing quickly enough. Thoughts on Michael Savage? You know, I did email back and agree to go on InfoWars, but I haven't heard back, unless I got a message and I missed it. Any expectations from his speech? Well, as you know, Trump has been doing this fascinating thing lately, where he's acting like his change in immigration policy, the change specifically about deporting the people who are here. You know, it has been changing, but they're doing his surrogates and he are doing this fascinating thing where they're looking people right in the eye and saying nothing changed. They're basically looking you right in the eye and saying, "The sky is blue." The sky is not blue; it's orange. And then people will say, "The sky's blue. We're looking right at it." And then people will say, "Oranges are orange. You know, if you buy an orange, it's always orange." And somebody will say, "Well, we're not talking about oranges. We're talking about the sky. And I'm looking right at it. It's blue." And then the Trump supporter will say, "All the oranges are orange." And then they run out of time. It's been going like that for a week. It's freaking hilarious. So to tell you what I expect from the Trump speech on immigration, he'll say all the things you think he's going to say about building a wall, and you need to send back the ones who are serious criminals beyond just coming into the country. And everybody will say, yeah, I agree with securing the border and sending back the serious criminals. And then there will be this big question of what do you do with the 11 million-ish people who may not be bothering anybody. And I think he's going to be vague on that. So I'll tell you the things he could do. He could say, and this would be my first choice, he could say, it's a really sticky problem. And I think there might be more than one way to deal with it. This is talking about the deportation of 11 million people. And he might say, I'm going to open it up to the public and say, tell me what you think we ought to do. Because if you think about it, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to ask. Because the law of the land is set. There's a law that says they'll have to be deported. But as president, he's listening to people, and there's a whole bunch of people, half or more of the country, I don't know what the percentage is, who don't want the illegals deported because of the disruption and the cruelty of it all. Suppose he said, look, I'm your president, and my job, I plan to be your president, I hope to be your president, and my job would be to follow the law. But I'm listening. If you've got a better suggestion, I haven't heard it yet. So if nobody has a better suggestion, the president's job is to support the law. And then people will start making suggestions, and they'll say stuff like, let me just give you some ideas. They might say, how about if somebody is sponsored by a legal resident? Let's say there's a legal resident who says, I will place a performance bond, risking my own money, to guarantee, if you will, to ensure one particular illegal illegal immigrant that I like, maybe my neighbor. So the way a performance bond works, if you've never heard of this, a performance bond is like buying a short-term insurance policy that covers one specific risk. So contractors buy performance bonds. Say, for example, if you're going to build something next to an important public, let's say a tree, that's an important tree, like the cypress the cypress on, the famous cypress tree. Let's say you were a construction guy and you were going to build there. You'd buy a performance bond. It's basically like an insurance policy that says, I won't ruin that tree. So let's say Americans bought performance bonds to protect their favorite illegal immigrant, their neighbor, let's say, or their coworker, somebody who's a friend. And they say, for $100 a year, I'll buy this insurance that says if my friend does something and they go to jail or they cost somebody money, the insurance will kick in. And, the government or the victim or somebody gets $100,000. I'm just throwing this out there. Then the country is somewhat risk-free, or at least minimize risk, from that one particular illegal immigrant. So an American citizen could guarantee or insure one particular immigrant, and the insurance cost would not be outrageous because insurance is not priced to be outrageous. So that's one way you could do it. Another way you could do it is my idea of designated American post offices as temporary Mexican embassies and then let people just go in and fill out some paperwork. They would be technically deported at the time that they enter the post office, and then we could take our time and work through it. The other thing that Trump has never said explicitly, and this is right, this is just true of all things. It's true of the national debt, and it's true of immigration. The problem is not how much the national debt is today, nor is the problem how many immigrants there are today. The only problem is if it gets worse. So if Trump says, look, solving the inflow of illegals is the problem. The other problem actually takes care of itself over time because, over time, 11 million out of 320 million people seems like, big percentage. But someday we'll have 800 million people. And then it'll be lost in the rounding. Although, obviously, they'll have their own children, but they'll be Americans. Another way to do it would be to have a test. Let's say the test is for illegal immigrants. And you say, here's the test. You have to demonstrate that you've contributed more since you've been here to the country than you've taken. And it could be that we just say we're only going to count the last 3 years or so because we know that when people just get here, they're not contributing too much maybe. But they're probably not using a lot in social services either because they're sort of staying underground for a while. But let's say for the last 3 years, have you contributed more than you've taken? And if they have, then we say, all right, we like you. And if they haven't, we figure out how they can. So maybe that person is fined. Maybe they pay a special tax, $100 a year, and that helps pay for the wall. Right? So there was 3 different ways to deal with illegal immigration that are all perfectly practical and have nothing to do with sending anybody back, or at least not sending them all back. IQ test. My racists have come in to say the big problem is that people with low IQs are coming across the border. I think that's what people are trying to say here. And I would offer this. Many years ago, the rich people could breed, I guess, and the poor people had less options, and the world didn't go to hell. There's people breeding with people all over the place in ways that you would not like, and the world's just getting better. It's getting smarter all the time. So I think the sense that, the racist view that immigration is going to lower the IQ because if you measured it in some country, Albonia, and you let more Albonians in, your average IQ would go down. I don't think that there's any science that would support that in the long run. In the short run, you could certainly say if you change the mix, it changes the average. That's just math. But I don't think you could say that there's a reason to suspect that that's any kind of an enduring effect. It could be, but I don't think there's any science to support that. It's measurable. It's not hypothetical. No, IQ is measurable, but you can't tell me what happens in the second and third generation when when folks have come in and they married, and there's just too many variables. And by the way, I know it's genetic, but that does not follow through to, therefore the average is down, will lower forever. It just doesn't follow through. There are such studies. Hold on. Just be right back. I don't know why my nose always runs when I do these. No, I think what you're going to find. Let's talk racism here. I think you would find that the United States is bringing people in of all different types, and they're cross-marrying, and they're marrying people of different races. And by the way, the country needs people of different IQs anyway, because there's lots of different jobs, and some people are going to be more comfortable in some jobs than others, and blah, blah, blah. I don't think. Well, let me tell you my experience. So I'm in Northern California, right? So we don't get the problems that Southern California and the people close to the border get. But the Hispanic population where I live is pretty high, right? So if I have a party at my house, there's always going to be somebody with Mexican background in the group. You hate the Dutch. And I can tell you anecdotally, and I would assume the science supports it, that we have this high population in Northern California of folks who are more often second and third generation from Mexico. And I would say that the population here is just screamingly good. The schools here are all 10s out of 10. I live in a town with a very large Hispanic population, often not first generation, but second, third. And our classes every school in the district is rated a 10 out of 10. Our students are brilliant, and we have a huge influx of immigrants from Mexico here. We have a huge influx from other places as well, India and Asia, for example. So I hear you when you say that if the Albonians have a lower IQ and we ship them all in on day one, if you measured everybody's IQ, the average would be down. But that just doesn't translate over time. It just doesn't. I mean, there are just too many examples of where that hasn't happened. All right, here's a good question for you. How do the IQs of Americans, just all Americans, and let's make it fair. Let's say Americans who are legal Americans. Let's forget about anything from immigration for a moment, just to keep apples and apples. If you were to compare the IQ of America, which is big old melting pot, compared to, let's say, a European country from which we had a lot of immigration, let's say Germany or England, Ireland, for example, what would be the IQ of the United States collectively versus the IQ collectively of Germany? All right. The reason I'm not saying China is that the United States is not made up of mostly Chinese immigrants. We have more European immigrants. All the racists on here got quiet all of a sudden here, right? It's about equal. So here's lower compared to Germany. Germany's higher. What are the numbers? Actually, this is a pretty good example. Let's say I was comparing the IQ of the United States, where we have more of a melting pot, with the IQ of Germany, which at least historically had less of one. They have a little more of one now. My guess is that we're about equal. But if you look in terms of performance, we're really good. You know, the United States is doing great, right? France is dropping 4 points for decade. I think you also have to look at the short term versus long term, right? Mexico's president is 5'7". That will be interesting. The U.S. is 98, so is Germany. Are we saying that we're about equal? No, you're saying that Germany's IQ is dropping. Well, what I'm telling you is there's definitely for whatever reason, there's a smoothing over time. So that whatever you think about individuals coming in, there's tons of evidence that we're doing fine. You're not going to change racist minds. No, I'm not. Well, I think you just have to look at the performance. You look at the United States, where we're just this big old, grab bag of different nationalities, and we're kicking a lot of ass over here, right? The country's doing great. So I would say that the evidence is that we can let people in from just about everywhere, and we do fine. Somebody said if there's more inbreeding, yeah. Let me open this up to the racists on here. And by the way, I love talking to the racists because, while I do not share their views, there's something about the honesty of it that I don't hate. You know, I mean, you could hate the opinion, but it's hard to hate the honesty of it if you're actually willing to say it out loud. Am I alt-right friendly? I don't know what that means. What's it mean to be friendly to a grab bag of completely different opinions that have been somehow conveniently labeled with one thing? I mean, what would it even mean to be friendly to that? To a grab bag of things? Yeah, I read Zero Hedge. So is there anything to the notion that is it racist to protect values? That's a good question. Is it racist to protect values? It's probably not an example of critical thinking, so it's irrational to protect values because values are almost always some irrational thing that got passed down to you by your somebody else, and obviously people from other countries have different values, so it's just sort of a mental state. So I'm not sure that protecting values is as important as you think it is. Yeah, being 602 does help. Is it racist to prefer your own tribe? Yes. It is also biologically natural to prefer yourself over other people. It is biologically natural to prefer your family over outsiders. You know, and then you like your tribe better than you like other tribes. That's all just biologically, it's built into us. Is patriotic racist? Oh, that's a good question. Because I'd say no. Yeah, they're different. Protecting the Magna Carta is not important. I mean, the things in it you might like, but the Magna Carta is just a specific document. Is BLM racist? Have you looked at the Black Lives Matter platform of things they're asking for? I was going to test this out today. I just got lazy and didn't feel like writing this morning. But I looked at the Black Lives Matter list of, I don't know if they're demands or preferences or how they like the world to be different. Because I didn't know. I didn't know if they had any demands. I thought they had problems, but not specific demands. But here's what was interesting. Some of their demands appear to me to be testable, meaning that you could say, okay, Detroit, let's try the Black Lives Matter recipe, the things they suggest. We still have to do a bunch of brainstorming about the specifics of that stuff, but let me give you an example. Some of the stuff Black Lives Matter asks for, and I don't think I fully understand this, so don't jump down my throat if I paraphrase them wrong or mischaracterize what they're asking for. But part of it was that the educational system is not optimized for African American youths. This is from Black Lives Matter, not from me. And the idea is that the quickness with which the system punishes people for just acting up doesn't work as well for the African American community. I don't know if Black Lives Matter gives any kind of reason why there would be a racial difference in acting up, which to me seems like a contradiction in their philosophy. But so there may be just something I don't understand about that. So, but the point is, their suggestion was to make the schools a little less punishment oriented, all right? So to have some kind of a system, and I don't think they were specific about what that would be, in which the system was a little more forgiving of, let's say, rambunctious, especially boy behavior. And I thought to myself, I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what that system looks like, right? If you come up with something that's different than what we have. But I think somebody does. There's probably somebody who thought about this, somebody who's maybe experienced dealing with schools that are more rambunctious. But you could try it, right? You could just say, we don't know if your idea is good or bad, but we could try it. And if we find a couple of schools that really want to do it, see how it looks. So here's my opinion on this. If you look at the Black Lives Matter list of demands / recommendations, it would be easy to say, that's stupid, that won't work. Or to say, that looks like a great idea. You're both idiots. All right? If you look at their list of demands and you have one of these two opinions, that's a great idea or that's a bad idea, you're an idiot. Because you don't know. You just don't know. Nobody's tried these ideas, right? But you can try them. You could try them small. You could try them in one school. You could try them in one county, one state. See what happens. You know, let the experiment run a little bit. Who would disagree with that? Who disagrees with testing stuff that you don't know whether it's a good idea or not? Right? Because you can just back off the test anytime you want to. You could just, start being more strict in school the day you realize that being less strict wasn't working for you. Sorry, Egg. I haven't been listening to or watching your comments for a little while. Can we start male lives matter? Male lives don't matter biologically. You only need a few men. The only thing you need men for is, you need one to impregnate like half of the world. Maybe you need a few just so you don't have too much crossbreeding, too much bad genetic material. And the rest, you know what the rest of the men are for? Just basically protecting women from the other men. That's basically all we do. So biologically, we don't have a ton of purpose. What's up with Cuban? Has he been saying something recently? He's been quiet recently, hasn't he? Men literally built civilization. They did. But suppose they hadn't. Suppose we were living in tribes. Would we be less happy? The science says no. Apparently the people who are still living in their little tribal towns, they don't know they're unhappy. Nobody told them. So we built all this, so men, says one of my viewers. One of the viewers says men built all civilization. That's true. Statistically speaking, men did most of the heavy lifting there. But are we happier? What was the point of it all? If you look at these little primitive civilizations, if you find, some tribal area in, South America, Africa, wherever, and you do a happiness survey, and you say you don't have any dental care and you don't have any medical care and you've got all these problems and your life expectancy is 45, aren't you unhappy? And the people from the tribe will look at you and go, why would we be unhappy? Looks pretty good to us. We're going to be playing in the fields today and throwing spears at stuff and roasting a pig. It's a good day. And then you look at your totally rich, modern, people in civilization like me, surrounded by my laptops and my iPhone and my iPad, and every one of those devices is not working on this day, and it's so complicated. I'm being interrupted by my messages, and my life is so complicated, and I've got to commute and everything. And I'm so happy with all my modern conveniences. And then you ask me, so, Scott, let's do a survey of your happiness. Are you happy? And I say, well, no, I've got to be on, strong pharmaceutical medications just to get through the day. In my case, I'm not on any, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not on any pharmaceutical drugs. But I think something like a third of the country is now technically insane just from technology. So I will grant you that white men built a big part of civilization, and they fucked the world doing it because we're all unhappy. And what was the goal? Happiness, right? Now, I'm obviously a big fan of adult white males because I am one. Not a racist. But the fact is, if you were to say, how did white men do over history? How do we do? We've definitely succeeded in, conquering a lot of the world and building a lot of stuff. But what was the point of it all? We didn't reproduce faster than other nations. And, you could say biologically that reproduction is the goal. So we failed on reproduction. We built a bunch of really cool weapons and tools and technology, and the sum effect of all of it was to make us less happy and to require us to build even more technology just to keep our brains from wanting to fucking kill ourselves, because life is so unpleasant in our modern world. We're just, we've got risks and jealousy and, complications and complexity, and it's all the stuff we built because we didn't know any better. We thought it'd make us happy, and it made us less happy. So if you're telling me, white people built a lot of great stuff, that's objectively true. If you tell me that that was a good thing, I would say that's objectively not true. Because if you compare us to, primitive civilizations still around who don't have any of that shit, and you say, how happy are you? They do pretty well. They score pretty well. And what's the point other than being happy? So the only two things that sort of mattered to life, did you reproduce, which matters on some kind of gross, biological level. Did your group evolve more successfully than the other group? White people didn't do that very well. I mean, compared to other groups who have higher birth rates. And then on happiness, the only other thing that probably matters, to our experience, we did not nail that. We did not nail that. You're in Costco right now. It's a good time to listen to this. You're harshing my buzz. Not getting conquered by the Mongolians is pretty nice. That is pretty nice. Smarter people, yeah, the smarter you are, the more things you have to worry about. That's literally true. I'm not trying to be clever there. There's this great movie, one of my favorite movies, called Little Man Tate. It's an old movie, but if you get a chance to see it, it was great. It was about a little kid named Tate, who's a genius, and all it does is make him unhappy because he has more shit to worry about. Why is Hillary still hiding? Well, there are two perfectly reasonable reasons that you're not seeing much of Hillary. One is that she was nursing her lead, and she's, not great in public, maybe, so they think, well, the less of her, the better. But her lead has disappeared. She's now running roughly even with, the guy that she believes is a crazy racist. How would you like that? How would you like to work your entire life to, build your reputation, your resume, and get your experience, and finally you make it to the big show. You're in the final two. You're going to be president. You've done everything a person can do. You've broken, you're ready to break the glass ceiling. I say it's already broken because nobody cares whether a woman's president or not at this point. It just isn't part of the conversation anymore. I think everyone has accepted that a woman can be president, and we're all going to be fine with that. So that glass ceiling's all done. But look at all the things Clinton has done. I mean, an amazing accomplishment for any human. A little bit harder for a woman, so, we imagine at this stage in history. And all that accomplishment. And she's running even with the guy she calls literally an insane racist Hitler. She couldn't beat him. I mean, the guy with no experience. It's got to feel bad. Hillary is the definition of racist. We're all the definition of racist. Was Ted Kaczynski happy? You mean in his little shack? Is Hillary Hitler? I'm not a word thinker. Do they prefer a racist over a liar? Well, it depends. If the liar is lying about you being a racist, then probably yes. Hillary's beating up Bill right now. I'm sure Trump has broken some immigration laws in the past. If you have a big enough company, there's probably a good chance you've done it. Will Trump win the black vote? It's not looking like it unless Clinton drops out, or is effectively dropped out. Let's talk about, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Huma, is it Huma or Uma? Huma Abedin? So, correct me if I'm wrong. I know that most of my viewers are male, but there are some women on here, so the women may not appreciate what I'm going to say as much as my male viewers. But the moment that Huma decided she was breaking up with Anthony Weiner, I think a whole lot of men had the same impression. She's available? Say what you will about Huma Abedin, but I think most men find her attractive, and the fact that she was willing to put up with Anthony Weiner and even forgave him one or two times for what he got caught doing again, it sort of raises her stock. I think she sort of accidentally, by being in this horrible situation, I think she accidentally became one of the most desirable unmarried women in the history of the United States, because she's really attractive, and she's really smart, successful, driven, and she put up with Anthony Weiner. I mean, talk about a resume for being attractive to the average American male. I mean, if you take the racism part out of it, you may have a problem with that. But generally speaking, in a weird way, she just became even more of an object of respect in some ways. Will I call her? No, I have a girlfriend. She may be a lesbian. I doubt it. All right, I'm going to go. I got stuff to do. Is she a collaborator? I doubt it. I'm just saying that Huma Abedin is going to be trading up pretty soon. I mean, she has to wait a year or whatever you do after you separate from your husband. But her life is not looking down right now. Her life is looking up. It doesn't feel like it to her right now, but her life's looking up. All right. I'm going to take off. See you, people.